Hello and welcome to the AFL High Performance Podcast for staff and footballers. Today is a very special episode. It's our top 10 most listened episodes for our interviews. So if you're a guest in 2024, the way that we've selected our top 10, if you had the most listens in your first month of publishing an episode, to keep it fair. So no matter if your episode was in December compared to those at the start of the year, we're comparing you with your first 30 days. So if you got the highest ranking episode, then you're a number one. And we've had 2 episodes every month. So obviously there's more than 10 episodes in that top 10. So we've kept it to the top 50% most listened episodes. I just want to thank everyone that's been a guest on the show. Obviously, this is just one metric that you can use to value the top 10. But there's many other ways that you can value top 10. And certainly from a learning perspective, every guest that I've had on this year, I've taken a massive amount of practical learning. So I really appreciate everyone that's come on the show, shared with us your time, your experiences, and helped, whether it be Australian rules footballers, maximise their athletic development, or for strength and conditioning coaches, sports scientists, learn. I'm a big believer that success leaves clues. And obviously you're all experts in this field. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your stories and experiences. But without further ado, here is our top 10, starting with number 10 and working our way up to number 1. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in, and good luck for 2025. Hopefully it's a fantastic year from a football perspective, as well as those S&Cs looking to work in pro sport.
I think the number one is that sugar is the devil. A lot of them come in and, maybe they've seen the I Quit Sugar film or whatever it was in school, and they're still really apprehensive about like a full sugar Gatorade at training or having lollies. So, we educate a lot on the role that those foods actually play as a sports nutrition tool. So we see it as a way to improve performance and utilizing it. In that sense, it's like it's fast fuel. It's going to be really easy to digest and for your body to access. So you can maintain your performance in training and games. So there is an element where that sugar is really important, and it's what our body is going to break down and use quickly.
We can use something called the anaerobic speed reserve, which is the speed range from the maximal aerobic speed, which we spoke about just a bit earlier, through to the maximal sprinting speed. And that range, if you plot those 2 landmarks across your group, so your 6-minute or 2K time trial and your sprinting speed, you essentially get a spread of differences within your group, right? So some people that are very speed oriented, some that have a good balance of both, and some that are more endurance dominant. So here are some player examples of that. So we got Charlie Cameron, a sprinting speed there, that would be around just approaching 10 meters a second. We've got a hybrid profile, so someone who's very good both on the endurance side and both on the sprinting side. Again, this sprinting speed is north of 10 meters a second. And then we got Sam Walsh averaging, in one particular season here, 15 Ks in a game.
In terms of trying to develop the management skills, so to speak, I think you got to be prepared to make mistakes. I think that's the most important thing. Early on, probably the biggest criticism of myself and that I was provided was I used to micromanage too much, because you want to be a perfectionist, but it's micromanaging the strength coach, micromanaging the conditioning guy, micromanaging the rehab, micromanaging so many different things, but you can't do that because then it ends up being a situation where the staff are not able to think for themselves, not able to flourish, bring their ideas to the table, feel like they're contributing in value.
Yeah, so we still see a substantial proportion of them happening in non-contact scenarios, and the proportion of that varies predominantly by the split of men's and women's competitions, but nonetheless, they still exist in both cohorts. And independent of the rules of the game, there's something about the situation having an extended knee, placing you in a risky scenario. And the situations in which that occurs is often sidestepping, decelerating, or landing from jumps. that has been a pretty steady description of how most ACLs occur across multiple sports, whether that's a rectangular field or a round field, whether it's a 360-degree game.
Fundamentally built into the fabric of this club and the DNA of this club is the fact that we are collaborative, and we're not here to promote certain individuals and egos and stuff like that over the cause of what the team needs. So your biggest threat is always the disease of I. Yeah, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. I am more important, that sort of thing, where it's like, what are we going to do to try and help? The athlete, the team, the coach, the physio. What can we do to try and help the situation? So fundamentally, it's just having that connection together, the common cause that you're all working hard towards. And that's what gives you the greatest joy when things come off like that.
Dan would describe his program as eclectic collection of training systems. By learning from Dan and looking at so many programs, you realize that there are 6 or 7 different ways that people choose to do that 2,000 to 3,000 meters worth of volume. And actually, so the lesson isn't that you must do the session. When you see Dan's sessions, he's got 5 different options for the players to choose or for the athletes to choose. And they all kind of summarize to a similar amount of volume, but some are longer, in each rep is longer, and the recoveries are appropriate, and some are shorter, and the recoveries are more broken. It's almost like he's figured out how to do energy system development, and regardless of who he's got in front of him, he knows his rules of thumb for developing that system, but he has multiple ways of making that cake.
Basketballers are allergic to the weight room. So it was about building a relationship. And I spoke about it earlier, is understanding their why. Why are they doing what they do? Once you understand why they're doing it, some guys might be, they play basketball because they love it. Some guys, it might be, this is their way of helping their family out. But other guys, it's, as a kid, was keeping them off the streets. So once you understand their why, then you're starting to build, you're breaking down that barrier that you already have with them. And that's no different to here either. Like once you break that barrier down, they might start to trust the process a little bit more.
These guys over at Aspire or Aspetar would be feeding the questions of, how can you assess this? What does this mean? One of the big ones that Alex gave was, if I've got an athlete who can squat 100 kilos on 2 legs, does that mean he can squat 50 kilos on a single leg? And I said, no, it's not possible. He goes, I knew that, but why? Alex was a why man, why, but why? And I just sat down and, maybe we can go and jump on the force plates and test it. I said, I don't need to do that. We can relate to fundamental biomechanical concepts. And just by simply looking at segmental mass distributions and we created an answer straight away within half an hour.
What we try and do with critical thinking is 4 key things, and the acronym is CARDS, CARDS. And everything we do is about C for clarity. We've got to put in our processes for clarity. The A is for alignment, because once we have clarity, then we need to align everyone involved. The R is for relationships, because when you have great relationships with people, you'll find it easier to attain clarity and alignment. The D stands for discipline, and that is the discipline to stick to the plan, the discipline to hold people to account. And the S is the thing that ties it all together, which is systems. If we can have systems that enable us to create clarity, alignment, build relationships, and have strong discipline, we're going to go a long way to being an excellent, high-performing coach.
One of the best bits of advice I was ever given was from a guy named Phil King, for those who might remember, in the late 80s, won the Olympic gold medal. Phil King was the national coach in track and field between, I think it was the early 1990s through to about 1995, 96. The best bit of advice he gave me was just to take the hard option. Don't take the easy option. Always choose the hard option in life and in what you do. And I'll never forget it.
I live fine as an athlete after that. And I try and use that mantra with players. It might be a simple thing, taking the stairs versus taking a lift. Those sorts of choices you can make. They're just little games you can play with yourself to just build resilience so that when you are faced with adversity, you can deal with it.
Well, thank you for everyone that's tuned in. Make sure to stick around. I've got a special giveaway at the end for those that have been loyal listeners for the whole year. But before we do that, just a quick little insight into what I'm thinking for 2025. So we'll keep 2 interviews going where we release them on Mondays, 2 episodes every month. That will continue in 2025. In 2024, we had I sort of broadened the different sports. It wasn't just AFL. We brought in NRL, cricket, institutes, those working in the private sector. So we sort of widen around, widen our reach, so to speak, where 2022, 2023 was more AFL specific. In 2025, I'm still thinking about keeping it broad, looking at the listens and the watch time, listen time. It certainly seemed to be well valued from listeners, and certainly from my perspective, from a learning perspective, I love listening to people that have worked in different fields, and I think it's really important from a development point of view that we understand how different sport cultures work. So if you happen to work in one of those sports, you have an advantage. So we'll keep that going. Because I'm now working in NRL, no doubt there's going to be a stronger NRL influence this year with our guests. I'll look to connect with those working in the NRL. We'll continue to work and have guests on from the AFL, of course. That will always be a foundation. And there'll be a bit more of an emphasis on speed, plyometrics, and agility, more the high-intensity actions, I think. So a lot of the guests have reached out to, particularly in America. I'm in Costa Rica at the moment, so I've got 3 exciting episodes for those that work in those fields and specialize in those 3 areas. So if you're interested in enhancing, whether you're a footballer, your speed, your game speed, and of course for coaches wanting to enhance your skills in developing those areas, you'll love this year because I've got some exciting guests as well as my own personal content that I'll present on in those 3 topics. 2024, we had a good balance between strength and conditioning and medical. 2023 was more holistic. We had sports psychologists, coaches. I think 24, we're going to keep it a little bit more narrow. So it'll be more specific to those that are in a high performance role. So whether they're the strength coach, the speed coach, rehab coach, or high performance manager. And then maybe in 2026, we'll get some feedback, do some review, and maybe we'll go back to more holistic, bring in dietitians, psychologists, and technical coaches. But that's just what I'm currently thinking. If you think that we should go in a different route, I'm open to suggestions and feedback. Thank you again for tuning in. Now, the special giveaway, if our podcast ranked in your Spotify top 10, I will give away a membership that's valued at $399. It's 12 months for free on our academy. We've got one for footballers, we've got one coaches, one for strength and conditioning coaches. So if that's you, check your Spotify top 10 wrap. If AFL High Performance Podcast is ranked in there, no matter what the number, if it's in the top 10, send me the screenshot. Better yet, post on your Instagram. And if you haven't got Instagram, email me at jack@propellerpro.com. Just need to see some proof, show me the screenshot, and I will give you instant access to our academy. We've got content there for the last 5 years. So there's hundreds of presentations as well as guest experts in there. Presenting on specific content. If you're a footballer, there's content there for you to get better. And there's also a completely different dashboard for strength and conditioning coaches. Thanks for tuning in 2024. I look forward to hearing from you in 2025.